By November, EU leaders ended speculation and appointed two relative unknowns to the newly created jobs of EU Council President and beefed-up foreign policy chief. The happy couple, Belgian Prime Minister Herman Van Rompuy and former Trade Commissioner and one-time leader of the British House of Lords, Baroness Ashton. Van Rompuy was considered the least offensive option for president. Not for everyone, though.
Nobody in Europe had ever heard of you.
A very public attack by the UK Independence Party's leader at Parliament after his maiden speech left him bewildered.
And the question that I want to ask, who are you?
My vision for the EEAS is one which ensures that when we speak, our voice is heard.
EU decision-making since the autumn has been marked by a parliament emboldened by its new powers under the Lisbon Treaty. The EU also had bankers in its sights. Tough and detailed rules to cap their bonuses by the start of next year were pushed through in record time by MEPs at their final summer session. Dealing with the credit crunch and reforming the financial sector had already been a key concern, but then came the double whammy, a debt crisis in Greece that threatened to engulf the whole Eurozone. Despite a string of emergency summits, many accused the EU of dithering and lacking solidarity. The first rescue package in May failed to impress. As protests in Athens claimed 3 lives and the money markets panicked, leaders and their finance ministers agreed a huge package in help and guaranteed loans. Meanwhile, the crisis opened new divisions. Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel's popularity plummeted, as did the mutual esteem between her and the French president, at loggerheads about the direction the EU should be taking. Let me ask you first of all, Nigel, to some extent this has been a year where Europe has gone back to basics. They called it the existential crisis for Europe, partly because of external circumstances, the financial crisis, partly because of the Lisbon Treaty. The whole sort of direction's been reappraised, and a lot of people have felt the answer is towards more integration. And in a way, the argument that you put forward, that the opposite should be true, has been lost a little bit.
No, I mean, that's the argument for everything, isn't it? You know, the European Union devises something, it fails, and therefore it says we have to have more of it. It does it with the fisheries policy, it does it with financial policy. I mean, look, I think, you know, what we're really coming to is the key defining factor of this year has been the crisis in the Eurozone. And forget which side of the argument we're on, we would all, I think, round this panel agree on that. The question is, the big question looking ahead is going to be, is the establishment of bailout funds, are a few changes to sort of, you know, banking practices, are these going to be sufficient to hold the Eurozone together? Or was what we've just seen the year, when actually what we'll see is the north of Europe with a currency that can work within an optimal currency zone, and countries like Greece, Spain and Portugal breaking away and re-establishing their own currencies. And so to me, you know, the arguments that we must have more Europe, yeah, it's just talk. The reality is, will the euro hold together? That's the key question for the whole of the EU.
Well, if Nigel would have predicted that a monetary union cannot work without a political union, then he would have been right. It is a problem that we have a monetary union without political decision-making that accompanies the monetary union. And we failed. And now we have to understand the failure of this political union, which does not exist.
Well, the British people didn't vote for parties that want the euro, certainly not. But
well, but we have, you know, the result of the British election.
There's now a majority in Germany that wants to leave the euro and get the Deutschmark back.
There's no majority.
I mean, those opinion polls are now clear and consistent.
I'm so sorry.
It's a big change, isn't it? In the last year, German public opinion has changed. Would you agree with that?
The German public opinion is...
so they like... I mean, they're happy to be the paymasters.
You read German, and you are part of the German discussion. The German public opinion is
clearly... part of every discussion,
let him make his point.
Clearly that we have to overcome that situation, and also, and that might be a little bit new, that we need, so to say, a new colonial approach. French-German stability policy in the Eurozone has to come back again.
The biggest thing that's happened in the last few months, as far as I'm concerned, is that post-Lisbon Treaty, the powers which are available to the European Parliament and its relationship between the Parliament and the Council and the Commission has absolutely dramatically changed. And I think that has not really got through. It's not got through to, if you like, national audiences. or indeed, for that matter, international ones.
Change for the good or for the worse?
Well, I think it's better because I think...
Why did you vote against it then, Timothy, if you think
No, we're
it's
not
better?
talking now about the Lisbon Treaty per se. The Lisbon Treaty is now passed. It's in.
No, but you're saying that the effect of the Lisbon Treaty in increasing the powers of the European Parliament is for the better, but you voted against it.
No, I think on that aspect it has been positive.
This Parliament, I mean, listen to the group leaders. And I mean, I go to some of the Conference of Presidents meetings. Listen to what is being said by the leader of the EPP group, the Socialist group. Actually, what's happened, on paper, the Lisbon Treaty has given this place a lot more power. Yeah, you know, absolutely, I accept that argument. But in reality, the Parliament feels that the crisis has actually emasculated it and that the power has gone back to, or the perception of power has gone back to the Council. And that is why every group leader, yours included, gets up and says, we must go back to the community method. We don't like the greater intergovernmental.
Okay, you'll go
and then... I do not agree with that. And we don't agree with the community method from our perspective.
We heard it today.
Just tell me, what was the single most important event for you in this parliamentary year? Nigel?
Oh, personally, being fined 10 days' pay for having a conversation with Herman Van Rompuy.
In which you are considered to be quite rude.
Oh, well, rude. Goodness me. We've had parliaments and chambers for thousands of years where people have been rude to each other, but now we have one where no criticism is allowed.
You wouldn't expect any less of you, Nigel.
I don't mind paying 10 days' pay for it, but it does show you the kind of move within these European institutions where no real opposition voice is allowed.